freedom. Oh, freedom. Oh, freedom over me. And before I be a slave, I be buried in my grave and go home to my Lord and be free. Oh, freedom. Oh, freedom. Oh, freedom over me. And before I be a slave, I'll be buried in my grave.
The Negro spiritual is really the first form of natural, organic American music. These spirituals went on to create blues, jazz, rock and roll, R&B, hip hop. They are American music at its core. And these spirituals started on plantations sung by slaves who were reflecting sorrow, but also giving hope for tomorrow. So some of those spirituals sound more bluesy, they sound more sad and reflective of the fact that they were in bondage, while other spirituals were more jubilant and more exciting and more hopeful. And that's what the Negro spiritual is and means to not only slavery in the past, but music today.
The most well-known abolitionist, Frederick Douglass, once said, "Let me be free. Is there any God? Why am I a slave? I will run away. I will not stand it. Get caught or get clear, I'll try it. I have only one life to lose. I had as well be killed running as die standing. It cannot be that I shall live and die a slave." The song "O Freedom" captures this perfectly and was the perfect song for the news that was about to hit Galveston, Texas.
On June 19, 1865, Union Army General Gordon Granger stood on a balcony in front of a group of slaves and read aloud the contents of General Order Number 3, announcing the total emancipation of those held as slaves.
But it wasn't until April 9th, 1865 that Confederate Army finally accepted the Emancipation Proclamation and surrendered battle in the Civil War. But even then, that news took a while to travel to Texas, which is where Juneteenth took place.
On June 19, 1865, Union Army General Gordon Granger read aloud the contents for General Order Number 3, announcing the total emancipation of those held as slaves.
The people of Texas are informed that, in accordance with a proclamation from the Executive of the United States, all slaves are free. This involves an absolute equality of personal rights and rights of property between former masters and slaves, and the connection heretofore existing between them becomes that between employer and hired labor. The freedmen are advised to remain quietly at their present home and work for wages. They are informed that they will not be allowed to collect at military posts and that they will not be supported in idleness either there or elsewhere.
Upon word that slaves had indeed been freed, the slaves rejoiced at the news they'd heard. In the crowd stood Sam and Bella, slaves who'd recently been denied permission to marry by Massa Reynolds.
Ooh, Bella, did you hear that?
Could it be true, or are my ears failing me?
The general done said we is free. We is free. I can marry you now.
I'd love nothing more than to be your wife, but what about Massa Reynolds? You reckon he'll finally consent to you and me marrying?
Bella, didn't you hear? You don't belong to Massa no more.
Well, boy, I expect you think you gonna run off and marry this here wench. Well, the gal belongs to me. You hear me, boy? Come on here, gal.
With all due respect, sir, you ain't no rights to deny us privilege of marrying. We is free. I'm gonna marry my Bella right here and right now. According to what the Union Army generals say, we ain't slaves no more.
Master Reynolds, my family worked for you a long time. I begged and pleaded with you as you snatched me from my mammy's arms and sold her off when I was only 10 years old. I cooked your meals, worked your land from sunup to sundown. I laid with you at night to soothe your lust and manly desires. And you beat me half to death when you saw my belly swollen with the seed you planted. And I lost a child that had your blood running through its veins. So we ain't asking permission no more.
We've suffered by your hand long enough. We'll work for you, and you'll pay us an honest wage for our labor. And when we've enough to flee your plantation and set out on our own, that's what we plan to do.
Life after slavery was a new world that transformed the lives of African Americans. Gone were the brutalities and indignities of slave life, the whippings and sexual assaults, the selling and forcible relocation of family members, the denial of education, wages, legal marriage, home ownership, and more. African Americans celebrated their newfound freedom both privately and in public jubilees.
When General Gordon Granger made this announcement, he had no idea this would eventually become Juneteenth, June plus 19, the most popular annual celebration of emancipation from slavery in the United States.
But even though there was this sense of celebration, this sense of hope for a better life, General Granger's news wasn't always news that was spread or that was accepted by Confederates, by slave owners. In fact, they did the opposite. They delayed the news and purposely waited to tell slaves until the government made it a possibility for us to even know that we were free. You can hear the constant struggle between freedom and slavery, or liberation and bondage, in our music today, just like this music by Maestro J. In honor of Juneteenth, we are proud to feature these local Black-owned businesses. Your support of Black-owned businesses influences economic independence and future prosperity for the Black community. Thank you.